So welcome everyone to the end of our busy day here. I'm sure you feel maybe a little like we do, where we feel both sad that it's over and then also nice that we get to see the outside a little bit before it gets dark. I've kind of been right here all day. But first I want to start with a few thank yous, and then I have some closing thoughts before we all go. So first, a thank you to all of you. I can't tell you how, well, I'll say it this way. Feedback matters, right? We know that. It's been a big conversation in all of our schools and districts, the feedback that we give to kids, the sorts of feedback that we get from their work or from each other. And I felt so inspired and grateful and energized by the feedback of all of you today. The tweets have been amazing. I haven't been able to join, like all of you, I haven't been able to be in all the sessions that I wanted to be in, but when I see like a still image from Elizabeth's session where she's working with her rubrics, or I saw someone saying, Refranza, I love this, I love the app that she's talking about, or just across the day seeing the energy that you're bringing to the people that you're working with and watching, but also to the conversations you're having too. I can't tell you how much it means to me, how much it means to all of us, and just really, truly thank you. Thank you for all that you give and the ways that you learn. It's what our profession needs to continue to grow in the amazing ways it does. So thank you to you. I also want to thank all of our guests today. Great sessions, right? I wish that right now there's a way I could turn on a microphone to all of you and we could clap, because I've been clapping here myself. Donalyn, Jen, Kathy, Sarah, Refranz, Louis, Jonathan, Molly, Christine, members of our team, Jess, Elizabeth, Kristen, Christy, Renee, thank you to all of you for all that you've given to everyone who's here joining today. The late night stress of planning and the trying to make sure the technology works. If you haven't had a chance to see them yet, the tweets and conversations that have started, and I realize those tweets are just one small fraction of probably all the energy and conversations that people are having beyond just their phones. So thank you for that. I have to give a very, very special thank you to to three awesome people that helped make this day actually broadcast to you and work. That's Brian, Ryan, and Krista. We've been on our phones texting each other all day long. Is the session up? Did it work? What about this? Oh no, I have to change that. They've been seated just like I am all day long, making sure that what you see is as incredible as it can be. They've been bringing in tweets and making sessions go well. Also, Brian, Ryan, and Krista volunteered their time not only today, but before today, helping each of your speakers today feel ready and set up. They had sessions with people after school, on the weekends, despite working long hours themselves. And special shout out to Brian, who not only ran sessions today, but also presented as well. So really, truly, thank you to all of you. So just a couple logistics before I have some closing thoughts for you. The first is that all of the sessions that streamed live today will be archived back on the same web page that you probably used to get here. So all of the sessions will be archived on gathering.theeducatorcollaborative.com. Some of those are up right now. Others might be down for a bit as we're transferring them over, but every session that was streaming live, as long as all the internet tubes worked, every session that was streaming live, you have access to for as long as you want, and we can still host them, so they're there. The other thing to know is they aren't all there yet, but they will all go to our YouTube page. So the Educator Collaborative, we have our own YouTube page that has almost nothing on it right now, but after today there'll be plenty. So the website will stay up, and then once that goes away, you'll have them for access on YouTube. So feel free to watch the sessions. In fact, do watch the sessions that you really wanted to see that you didn't get a chance to. We also invite you to share them with anyone and everyone. So if a clip of something seems really helpful in your own professional learning back in your communities, we welcome you to hook right into them and play them. Okay, I think those are the big thank yous. So what I wanted to end with today, I titled this closing conversation, "The Next Path from Student Centered to from Students at the Center to Students at the Lead." And really what I want to do in our last bit of time here is to have a conversation with you, or at least get one started. And it's one that's been going on in pockets and around, that I'd love to continue with you. And I'm thinking of this in this way. Normally when I'm planning a keynote or a session, I try to make sure I'm practical and I give you all of the right answers. Like I try to say, or some answers. I try to say, if you're teaching close reading, here's some steps you could take. There may be others, but here's ones that are helpful. If you're going to work on writing with fifth graders, here's some things to do that can be really helpful. And so I want to give a bit of that. But what I more so want to do is something that I learned from a conversation recently. Just recently, as in just not that long ago, I was talking to Laura Hebert from the National Center for Literacy Education. NCLE is an organization that partners with many organizations. It's under the umbrella of NCTE, but ASCD, IRA, lots of incredible groups work together underneath NCLE's work. And what NCLE aims to do is to take the great work of educators and make it broad and known to not only others, to not only share things that we're learning and talking about together, but also to learn from the ways that educators work and grow and collaborate, and share that with policymakers too. So one thing that I've learned from their research, as they've studied lots of groups working together, something that I found really powerful that I had heard Laura say actually a couple months ago, is that groups work well together when there's a couple things in place. And one of the big things that allow groups to collaborate well, to really band together and think and grow, is not when they try to necessarily create a unit of study, not necessarily when they try to figure out how the standards work, not necessarily when there's a finite task. Those are useful. But really the way that groups grow and learn and change, not just themselves but others, is by finding problems of practice, by finding a question that maybe no one has the answer to yet. So I want to share with you in this conversation one of those questions that has really been in my mind and kind of influencing the way I think about things, because I know the answers are amongst all of you and amongst all of us in our profession. So I think the best way to start is with a conversation that I actually had. I was talking with some middle school teachers here in New York, and Jessie, one of them, was talking about how at the start of the year, she wanted to invite these were sixth graders, I believe, she wanted to invite them to think bigger than just the schoolwork they were doing and the standards they were working on. So she had bulletin board space, as many of you do, and on that bulletin board, she created a board that was about what I want to be. It's a thing I think many of us have done. So she made this board, what I want to be. She sang to them from Nas has that song, I know I can be what I want to be what I want to be. So she was singing the Nas song with them, and she put up what I want to be, and she asked them to write a letter to the world. So she said, write dear world, and say not just what you want to be, but what you know you can be, or what you believe you can be, or what you aspire to be. So her band of, again, I believe they were sixth graders, they were middle schoolers. So her band of middle schoolers are all writing letters, and so of course there were, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a DJ. A few of them said I wanted to design games, which I thought was really awesome. So I wanted to design games. They were sports stars and future actresses. There was a teacher in the mix. So it was everyone sharing these big things that they wanted to do. And then there was one letter. And this one letter the boy wrote, I want to be a businessman. Okay, great, I want to be a businessman, but I don't think I can be because I'm not good at math. So in his letter where he was describing what his future will be, he wrote right into it something that he believes he's not good at in school and how he can't be that thing. And that to me reminded me of a larger conversation that's been going on in pockets in education. And so that conversation is one that the teacher and I started to have, but I'd like to share with you here, and it's a fewfold. The first is, in the world that our children will inherit, not the ones that we've lived in so far, not the roles that we've had, though for sure things are changing quickly, but in that world that's coming ahead, what will it take to be a doctor or a game designer or a basketball player or an actor? What does it actually look like to have those jobs in the future, to have those aspirations beyond us? Tony Wagner kind of lives in this intersection between the business world and the education world, and he writes about it often, where he's looking at the ways that things are progressing or not progressing in both. And one thing that he points out, rather shockingly, is that the sorts of jobs that our kids will have in the future are ones that probably haven't been created yet. Linda Darling Hammond has written about how, I think the fact was, in 2010, the top 10 most desirable jobs in 2010 had not existed in 2004, only 6 years earlier. Thomas Friedman in the New York Times has written about how the jobs of the future are many times things that kids will have to create themselves. No longer do we live in just like my grandparents and even my parents, one main job that you have for your life, where we oftentimes are going through many different permutations. And so one question to live with is, what will our kids need to inherit the future? A part of that, I'm certain, are skills. I'm sure of it. You have to be literate. You have to understand math. You have to understand how history serves our understanding of the world. You have to know science. You have to have skills that allow you to be a literate, capable citizen in our society. You have to have skills that allow you to live with the ambition that you most want to have. So for sure we'll need those skills. And one thing that's been a great gift to our profession is all the people that have helped all of us learn how to do that better. We've learned from Don Graves and from Lucy Calkins and from Nancy Atwell in the world of literacy. At least we've learned how essential it is to not stand in front of the room and profess, but instead sit right beside a child and lean in close to them and talk to them, whether that child is 5 or that child is 15, and to really place students at the center of our decision making, to really have them move the next step of our lesson forward or our next unit forward. We've learned important ways to do that, and they're essential for making our classrooms ones where kids are growing and flourishing. The next path, though, and maybe the word isn't though, I think it's more an and, the next path, especially if we're looking to this world that's ahead of us, is not just that we're placing kids at the center. The visual I sort of have of this is a conference, that you're sitting right next to a child and you're looking in their eyes while they're looking in your eyes. And in that interaction, so much of the time, at least my experiences have been, so much of the time, I'm trying to direct my teaching to match what they need. And in one way, it's beautiful because I'm helping to move that child ahead. The danger, though, especially looking forward, is that I can't always be the controller of what's going to happen next. I have to be careful that I'm not the one who's only setting the agenda for the child that's next to me. What I'm imagining, the kind of visual, is not just sitting looking directly at the child eye to eye and placing them at the center of our teaching. But I really see that next step as both of us sometimes, or maybe many times, turning our heads together and looking out into the future together. To have the child lead what's next, decide what's ahead of us, what should we do tomorrow, what new challenges are there to overcome. So in practical terms, there's a few ways that people are starting to take work like this on. There's things like Genius Hour, which I hear Julia in Michigan going, yay. Genius Hour is one of those times that teachers and educators are experimenting with allowing kids space to innovate and fall apart and design and try to make sense of a problem or question that they have themselves. It's allowing 20 minutes or a whole period that's expected, that kids know is coming, where they take on their own tasks and do some of their own learning. They bring in the skills work you've been doing, but then look out into the future to see, well, what are some things that we need to tackle next? Another way that that's working is in maker spaces and the maker movement, where people are taking technology, or sometimes not technology, sometimes just analog, thread and sticks and things, but taking technology or other objects and using those to create, to really say, how does this thing work? Can I figure it out? Or what could I make with this bundle of wires, or with this computer that's in front of me, or this 3D printer? It also is happening in non-technological ways. Today, Christy and Christine's session, where they were talking about, for very young children, play, and looking at play as not just like fun during the day, but really as a time where our kids can explore and learn. Maybe think about it this way. When in your schooling, in your experience, did you feel like you had not just ownership over your learning or the work you were doing, but an incredible sense of pride, an incredible sense of learning that took place? For me, when I think about my schooling, and I loved my teachers, and I've become a literate person in society, but for me, I think most about after-school things. I thought about being involved with theater clubs. I thought of being involved with sports. I thought of being involved with music. I thought of being involved with student council. I thought of those times as a time where the adults around us said, you got this, try it out, go. I especially remember in high school, there were some friends of mine who wanted to put on a play. So they asked the theater coach, or asked the teacher, could you be our advisor? And he said, sure. And then we more or less, now I'm sorry if this is getting anyone in trouble, we more or less were just left alone in the theater many times. But I remember how the second we opened that door and went in, and the school bell was done, and we walked into that room, and the stage was in front of us, how we all created jobs for ourselves and took initiative and tried to problem solve. What feels like a next path could be big or small. It could be transforming the way that schools are designed, but it also could be looking at our own teaching and asking ourselves, how often do I not know the answer to what's going to happen next? How often do I not know really what to say about this book or this play or this problem? And to offer that opportunity more for our children. The sorts of jobs that our kids are inheriting, the sorts of jobs that are worth inheriting for them, are ones where they need incredible skills, but they also need to be innovative, they need to think creatively, they need to problem solve, they need to be able to throw things apart and start over again. One assessment we can use for ourselves is to ask, what's happening in my classroom so that children could create their own jobs in the future, so that they could form Doctors Without Borders that are supporting people in West Africa, or how they could create Twitter that's allowing all of us to connect together today, how they can be the next great comedian or the next great author or the next great poet. What tools are we giving them so that they can take the skills they're learning, but also experiment with ways of putting them together themselves in ways that maybe we never imagined? I want to end with a little experiment with you. Because I've been thinking so much about this topic, I've been reading lots of books like this one that just came out, Imagine It Better, Visions of What School Might Be. So this is just out from Heinemann. And it's a whole collection of essays from incredible educators, and essayist Tony Wagner that I mentioned earlier is in here. And there's one essay that I so loved, and here's something I'd like you to just do with me for a moment. So Sonia Nieto, the amazing author and educator, she describes in an essay in the book experiment that she would run with her graduate education students, so either pre-service teachers or teachers that were currently in the field. And it goes like this. She'd say to them, put them in groups, and she'd say, so now that you're in a group, I'm going to give you a goal. And you have to create a school that will fulfill that goal. Now, purposefully, some of the goals, this part she didn't say, but purposefully some of the goals, and you'll hear in a second, are horrible. They're things that you would never want, and purposely some of them are really strong and amazing. So for example, she writes, I put my students into groups, and then each group would have a different goal that they had to create a school around. So one of the goals, create many low-skilled workers and few highly skilled managers. The goal of that school you're creating is to create many low-skilled workers and a few highly skilled managers. Or another group was asked, can you make a school that will replicate society? For both what's great about it and terrible about it, make a school that replicates society. A third group, prepare students for lives as productive citizens in a democratic society. And a fourth group, prepare students to live peacefully and equitably in a multicultural society. So let's try this together for a second. Let's take that first one, create many low-skilled workers and a few highly skilled managers. What would a school have to look like to get that rather awful goal accomplished? Well, it probably would need things like, we almost certainly would need to track students in some way, right? Like we'd have to put many, many kids into a sort of group that keeps them separate from the others. A few we could choose, and you could decide how, but a few we could choose that would be highly skilled and motivated, and then others we could kind of leave there. And then if what we want to produce are these low-skilled workers and a few highly skilled managers, then probably those different tracks need to be taught in different ways. Maybe we'll put the least experienced teachers more often than not with the brand new students, the teachers who are energized and excited but really are still in the process of learning. Maybe we'll give extracurriculars, or maybe even time during the day for the kids in the high track to have arts and music and other things, and maybe the low track will give them multiple sessions of math or science just to like make sure that they have the basic skills that they need. Maybe groupings will look differently in those classes, maybe room environment will look differently in those classes, maybe the sorts of opportunities they have outside of school, like what after school programs are given to them, or what sort of trips we take together, maybe even the texts that they're offered and the technology that they have. So here's the thing. When you imagine that goal, when you say, let's build a school just to try it out, let's build a school like Sonia Nieto's done, let's build a school that creates low-skilled workers and highly skilled managers, it's pretty easy to figure out how. But then what's so stunning, and the reason why she does this brilliant exercise, is sometimes we see our own schools in that. Sometimes we see the pieces of the schools we went to, or maybe the schools we're in now, that are not necessarily by design, but very much by design, fulfilling those same needs, those same goals. It's really shocking to stop and think that we have power to create the way that kids will live in our world, but if we're not aware of that power, it will overpower us. So I want to end with this question, this kind of problem of practice to figure out. What goals would you put in place? What structures could you imagine creating either as a whole district, or as a school, or even in your classroom, or frankly even in your home, that could allow your students, your children, your community, ways of not just being led, but really learning to look forward themselves, to dream out into the future of how their next job could go, or to dream into the future of the problems that we need to solve as a society. So I want to leave you with that thought, because here's the thing. It seems hard to move things sometimes. It feels tough to live in a world where standards are spinning around our heads and we're being told that we're evaluated in this way, and some of us have to actually go out and do those evaluations and feel overwhelmed as well. It can feel rough when people are talking about schools and teachers in terms of data and not in terms of passion. Though that's hard, we do have the power to change things. It all depends on the goal and the vision that we have. I want to thank you for joining with us today in our community. This has been absolutely over the moon amazing for me. I hope it has been for you too. I'm really looking forward to continuing all of these conversations together through the ways that we'll be working here at the Educator Collaborative, but I'd love to connect and learn more about the ways that you and your colleagues are working together too. Thanks for giving your time, whether you're here right now or you're going to see us in the future as you're watching these clips too. And more than anything else, really, truly thank you. And I say this often, thank you for all you do for kids, for your colleagues, and for our truly amazing and great profession. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, everyone, and take care. Thank you.